Ladies and gentlemen, what an honor it is to be with you today. Thank you, Jonathan, for that very kind introduction. We're so excited to be able to spend a few minutes with you talking about Utah. You see, my predecessor, Governor Gary Herbert, used to say that he was the CBO of Utah, which is the Chief Bragging Officer. And so I guess I've inherited that role, and that's what we get to do. We have you all captive here. You have to listen to the great things about Utah. You've heard some of that, but hopefully I can share maybe a little different message. But of course, I'm going to brag for a moment. So look, Utah is thriving. We've been recognized. We've received so many accolades. The best state to start a business last year. The happiest state in the nation. The fastest growing state in the nation in the last census. More growth per capita than anywhere else in the country as people have found Utah and are celebrating the successes that you can have here with your business in the economy. Amazing jobs. We've led the nation in GDP growth over the last 10 years. And we are home to growth in sports, industry. We're very excited. Some of you may have seen the National Hockey League. We have, well, I guess it's not an expansion team, but a team that moved here from Arizona. We're very excited for Ryan and Ashley Smith to bring that NHL team here. We firmly believe that in the next couple years that we will get a Major League Baseball team as expansion happens there. We have an incredible team that's working to bring Major League Baseball here. Of course, we're home to the Utah Jazz. The PGA and the LPGA are coming back to Utah after being gone for 50 plus years, coming down to a Black Desert. If you haven't had a chance to play Black Desert, you have to go down to St. George and play Black Desert at some point. And of course, on July 24th, we will be in Paris, France, hopefully, signing on the dotted line to bring the Olympics back to Utah in 2034, something we're very proud of. But that's not all. We were very excited to see for the second year in a row, U.S. News & World Report came out with their comprehensive rankings of every state. They look at 70 different categories, over 1,000 different data points, ranking all 50 states. And Utah, again, for the second year in a row, was named the best state in the nation. Not just the best economy, not the best place for education, the best state, period. And people ask me all the time, how is it? What is it that makes Utah the #1 state in the country? And I tell them, it's the governor. And they laugh like you did. And so we know that's not true, right? That's why we all laugh when I say that. And it's not. It's not because of the governor. It's not because of the legislature, although we do have an incredible legislature, and government does matter. There's no question about it. Having lower taxes and a friendly environment for businesses and families, all of that matters. I want to talk to you for the rest of my time today about why I think we receive those accolades, why I do believe that this is the best state in the nation. I need to go back to a conversation I had, though, with someone else. I'll let them describe maybe why Utah has been so successful. A few weeks ago, my wife and I had an opportunity to be in Vancouver for the TED, the TED conference, the TED Talk, things that we all watch, and got an opportunity to present there. And we had this amazing dinner, an eclectic dinner with lots of interesting people. Kesha was sitting just down the table from me. Some of you may know Kesha. I did not. That was interesting to me. But I was sitting across the table from someone I won't mention his name, but a billionaire hedge fund, very, very famous person. And we were talking about Utah. He was asking questions about what was happening in Utah, and I shared some of the things I just shared with you. And he looked at me and said, you know, you're very lucky to be governor of Utah. And I said, well, I know. He said, you have some built-in advantages. I said, well, yeah, I mean, look, we live in the most beautiful place on earth. Photo Magazine named us the #1 travel destination in the world, not just in the United States, but in the world. We have 5 national parks. We have incredible ski resorts. People love to come to Sundance Film Festival and Park City and all these spaces in between, 48 state parks, just incredible, all these places. And he said, yeah, that's great, and we love to visit Utah for that, but that's not your built-in advantage. I said, okay, well, what is the built-in advantage? He said, you know, every person I've ever met from Utah is incredibly smart, they're hardworking, They're honest almost to a fault. They care deeply about their state and their country. They care about their religion and their congregations. They love their neighbors, and they care about their families. And, for a person from New York, I said, well, that's true. I believe that, but it's interesting to hear it from you. And he said, and you know something? He said, those are Utah values, and they used to be American values. He said, Utah is what America used to be, and what I hope America can become again. Now, again, I can say those things, but to hear it from someone else was impressive. I really hope I didn't do anything to change his mind about everybody he'd met from Utah that night. But I've thought a lot about that conversation. And so I want to share a couple other statistics with you that I think explain the successes. They're very different. It's something that I'm proud of. I speak about it often. I apologize for those of you that have to hear me speak often. But we lead the United States in service and volunteering every year, and we lead the United States in charitable giving every year. I think that matters. We lead the United States in upward mobility, which means that if you're born in poverty, you don't have to stay in poverty. We like to refer to that as the American dream. We lead the nation in social capital, right? Again, related to service and volunteering and charitable giving, but this thing that we all possess and can give back, right? So social capital is what allows us to help those who are struggling, to reach out to the most vulnerable, to spend our time bettering the place around us. Social capital is about we, not me. And I feel fortunate to live in a state that leads the United States in social capital. This one is fascinating to me. We lead the nation in non-zero-sum thinking. So zero-sum thinking, of course, is this idea that if someone wins, then someone else loses. That our economy, that everything that we value here is a pie, and if someone gets a piece of that pie or a bigger piece, then I get a smaller piece. So it's a dog-eat-dog world. It's them or me. I have to win and make sure someone else loses. That's sadly the predominant philosophy now in the United States. More people in more states believe in a zero-sum game than not. But Utah is a rare outlier. In the study that was done, the surveys that were done showed that more people by far in Utah do not believe that life is a zero-sum game. We believe that if someone else wins, that is good for all of us. And why is that? Well, we believe in institutions and the power of institutions. We believe, again, in taking care of our neighbors. We understand, as Alexis de Tocqueville saw when he came to the United States in the 1830s, what he found was something remarkable. And I think this is what my new friend was getting at, these American values. What de Tocqueville saw when he came here was a country that was different than anything he had seen in Europe. What he saw was when there was a challenge or a problem, communities came together. They formed institutions. They formed bonds to solve those problems. If a community needed a hospital, they formed an association and they raised money to build a hospital. If they needed a school, they did the same thing. And there were lots of these institutions, different institutions, associations, as he called them, of people. And what he found was that we formed institutions, and then the institutions kind of formed us. It was a way to hold each other accountable. Religious institutions were a major part of that, and probably the major part of that, as religious institutions came together to do many of those things, the hospital building, the schools, the things they needed. What was noticeably absent was government doing all of those things, and understanding that government does play a very important role, and government does have the ability, of course, to build those things, and especially infrastructure, something I'm proud of. We've invested more in infrastructure over the last 4 years than any time in our state's history, including a new airport that some of you got to enjoy when you came in. But those institutions are so important because government was never designed to solve all of our problems. It's just not good at doing it. I have a board of directors of 104 people, all legislators, and they only meet for 45 days during the year. Government was not designed to do that. It's supposed to move slow and be very methodical. And so we rely on private enterprise, and we rely on these social institutions, nonprofits. We rely on our faith-based institutions to help solve those problems. And that's the social capital piece that dominates here in Utah. And so, as I conclude, I believe that those are the reasons that Utah has the best economy in the nation. Those are the reasons that Utah is succeeding wildly and kind of outkicking our coverage for a state of 3.4 million people, receiving these types of accolades that have usually been reserved for larger states and states on the coast. Several years ago, I had a visit from a foreign dignitary, and we were having this discussion. I was lieutenant governor at the time, and he just looked at me. He was the Crown Prince of Luxembourg, and it was fun for me because I didn't know that Luxembourg had a crown prince, and I didn't know where Luxembourg was. But I figured all of that out, and we had a great discussion. And he just looked at me and he said, "Why Utah?" And I said, "Why Utah? Why?" He said, "Well, why Utah? Why is all of this happening here? I've been on the East Coast, I've been on the West Coast, but this square state in the middle of the West that I didn't know that much about. Why Utah?" Well, I hope I've answered that question for you today. Why Utah is really about the people that live here. The people are very special. They have pride in place. They have a rootedness that calls this place home. Even if you've only been here for 6 months or 6 generations, you feel that rootedness, that connectedness that the rest of our country and really the rest of our world is desperate for. So thank you for joining us here in Utah. It's an incredible place to do business. It's an incredible place to live. It's an incredible place to connect, and we hope to be seeing more of you. Thank you so much.